Hello, my name's Dick Lipton. I want to welcome you to our presentation today concerning Edinburgh. Edinburgh is one of my absolute favorite cities in the world. Today we're going to talk about kings, we're going to talk about the castle, we're going to talk about a whole lot of scoundrels, and we'll even talk about ghosts. But before we start the presentation, I want to make sure you know how to pronounce the name. It's pronounced Edinburgh, not Edinburgh. The locals really appreciate it when you say the name of their town correctly. The most famous feature of Edinburgh is Edinburgh Castle. The site where it's located has been occupied as some type of a defensive position for millennia, but the castle itself was started in the 12th century by King David I. He and a couple of his sons ruled until late in the 13th century when, due to lack of an heir, King Edward I of England was appointed as the regent to help and protect the Scots. And of course, what did King Edward do? He immediately invaded and took over Edinburgh Castle. That started hundreds of years of wars between the Scots and the British. And they continued to fight, particularly over Edinburgh Castle. It's been stated that Edinburgh Castle is the most besieged castle in all of Britain. And there have been continual battles, and it's changed hands multiple times. But I want to point out that the fighting was not only between the English and the Scots, it was often amongst the Scots themselves. Indeed, famously, King James II of Scotland went ahead and he invited his 16-year-old cousins, who were claimants to the throne, to come to dinner. Now, at that time, James II was all of 10, but he immediately had his cousins killed to make sure that his claim to the throne was certain. And during all these periods of time, there was battles back and forth with the castle changing hand. The last battle occurred in the 1750s when Bonnie Prince Charles landed in the British Isles, and he found his way up to Scotland, took over Edinburgh Castle, and was eventually evicted by the British, and that was the last battle. Now, today, Edinburgh Castle sits in the middle of a whole lot of housing, buildings, everything. It still is technically a military fort, although its usage is somewhat limited. But what's really famous for today is every August they hold the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo right on the plaza in front of the castle. And military bands from around the world, including always bands from the United States and all of the bands from around Scotland and England, come and parade for several hours with fireworks, and it's an exceedingly festive evening. But the highlight every year is always the Lone Piper. Late in the evening, a piper stands on the battlements, plays a different tune every night, and literally tens of thousands of people fall completely silent listening to one bagpipe. It's truly an exhilarating evening. Well, enough about the castle for now. Let's also talk about a scoundrel. And we're now going to start with one of my favorite scoundrels, Deacon Brodie. That's his nickname. His real name was William Brodie. And this is the sign from the Deacon Brodie Tavern, which is just down the road from Edinburgh Castle. William Brodie, Deacon Brodie, was one of the leading citizens of Edinburgh. He was the leading cabinet maker. He was the key locksmith. And he was a member of the city council, a real honorable guy. Except when somebody would give them their keys and their lock to fix, Deacon Brodie would make a wax impression of the key, and when then they left, he would find out when they were gone, he would make a key and go in and rob them. And he robbed house after house after house, and nobody could figure out how somebody was getting in. Why'd he do this? Well, Deacon Brodie did it because he apparently had 2 mistresses, neither of whom knew each other, 5 children, and a very bad gambling habit, and he needed the money. And this went on for literally about a decade. He finally got caught when he got a little too greedy. He was asked to make a key for the office of the tax collector. And he made the keys, he made his impression, and one night he and a couple of his cronies broke into the office of the tax collector, and they got caught. And the whole scheme unraveled. And Deacon Brodie and his compatriots were all sentenced to die. So what does Deacon Brodie do? When he gets taken to the gallows, he bribes the executioner. He bribed the hangman and said, I'll give you some money. You know how to do it so I don't die. The hangman took the money, and then he did his job anyways, and that was the end of Deacon Brodie. Thank you.